In this video, I'm going to show you how to integrate powers of sine and cosine being multiplied together. So here are 3 easy rules that you can use whenever you encounter a problem like this. If sine's power is odd, then you can use the trig identity sine squared equals 1 minus cosine squared. When cosine's power is odd, you can use cosine squared equals 1 minus sine squared. If they're both odd, you can choose which way you want to do it. It won't matter. And if both powers are even, then you're going to have to use the power reduction identities. Now I'm going to go over 3 examples using each of these cases. Alright, so in this first example here, our sine has an odd power, and our cosine has an even power. So we're going to rewrite this as sine to the 4th x cosine squared x, and we just took out a sine x, so we'll have sine x dx. Now we can convert the sine to the 4th x using our trig identity. So we have the integral of 1 minus cosine squared x. So this right here would be sine squared x. So you get sine to the 4th x. We're going to square this times cosine squared x sine x dx. Now, we can use a u sub where we set u equal to cosine of x, and du will be negative sine x. And that's what's going to get rid of the sine x that we still have. So now, we can rewrite this in terms of u. So it's the integral. We're going to have a negative sign from our du of 1 minus u squared times u squared du. So now we need to expand this. So we're going to start by FOILing this out. So that's negative integral of 1 minus 2u squared plus u to the 4th. Or multiplying that whole thing times u squared. So then when we get it all expanded out, that's going to be equal to u squared minus 2u to the 4th plus u to the 6th. Now we can just use the basic power rule to integrate each of these. So that's negative u cubed over 3 minus 2u to the 5th over 5 plus u to the 7th over 7. And lastly, recall that u was equal to cosine, so we can substitute cosine in to get our final answer. That's negative cosine cubed x over 3. We're also going to distribute this negative, so that's plus 2 cosine to the 5th x over 5 minus cosine to the 7th x over 7 plus c. Alright, so in the second example, I'm integrating sine squared x times cosine cubed x. Notice that the power on sine is even, and the power on cosine is odd. So, we're going to rewrite this as sine squared x times cosine squared x times cosine x. So we now took one cosine x out so that we can use our trig identities. So now we'll apply our trig identity. We'll say sine squared x times 1 minus sine squared x, which is equivalent to cosine squared x times cosine x dx. And from here we can do our u sub. So we'll set u equal to sine of x, and du will be cosine x dx. getting rid of that extra cosine at the end. So now we can rewrite this in terms of u. So we have u squared times 1 minus u squared du. From here, we can simply distribute out the u squared. So it's u squared minus u to the 4th du. And we apply power rule. That's u cubed over 3 minus u to the 5th over 5 plus c. And since u was sine, we'll rewrite this as sine cubed of x over 3 minus sine to the 5th of x over 5 plus c. Alright, so in this last example here, I'm going to integrate sine squared x times cosine squared x dx. Notice that this time both sine and cosine have an even power. They're both squared. So this time I'm going to use the power reduction identity formula. So sine squared will become 1 minus cosine 2x over 2. And cosine squared will become 1 plus cosine 2x over 2. So we can multiply these denominators and bring them out as a constant. So that will just become 1/4 as a constant times the integral. And now we're going to multiply these numerators. So that's 1 minus cosine squared of 2x. Now we can just integrate 1 and we'll get 1/4 x minus, and now we need to integrate the second part. Now, since cosine is once again has an even power and it's on its own, we need to do yet another power reduction formula, except this time, instead of it being x, we're doing it on 2x. So cosine squared of 2x will equal, if we come over here, 1 plus cosine of 4x, because we got to double it, over 2. So this 2 will multiply with the 1/4 in front of the integral, so that will become 1/8 minus 1/8 integral of 1 plus cosine of 4x. So now we can integrate this just using basic rules, and we'll have a small u sub here. So that's 1/4 x minus 1/8 x, and that will be dividing by 4, so this will be minus 1 over 32 sine of 4x. And lastly, we just simplify, so this will become 1 over 8x minus 1 over 32 sine of 4x plus c.